to reference back to. We're making such great progress, and thank you to everyone for helping out. Josh, you have been a godsend. Thank you. You did a lot of work, and it was very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did great. So what I'm going to do is share the scorecard that Josh revised from what Gladys had done while Gladys was on vacation. Wait a minute. I got too many things popping open that I don't want. Let me see what's going on here. Hold on. It did turn out last time that for whatever reason I did not have the same, because I wasn't an organizer or something, it did not allow me to record. So I'm glad that got worked out. All right, so what Josh did for us, and he kind of changed a couple of the categories, or the category names. So from full implementation to partially and not implemented, which I think is, I like those headings. I don't know, what did you guys think? Or do you like those?
Yes.
And then we can still put the interactive score piece in. Over in the column. It's not interactive right now, but I agree with Josh. Why put the effort in until we have an approved one? And then I like the way he broke this into different categories. So it really, I thought, flowed. What are other people's thoughts?
Yeah, I think those are the same categories that Gladys had in the scorecard. The main change I made to that one was just changing the number of levels that were available, the full, partial, or not implemented. And yeah, that interactive piece, I've still got your original version that you sent me, so once this is kind of settled, I should be able to just copy the Excel formulas over back in there and reactivate it.
Okay. So are we a go on this version?
I have a couple of comments.
Okay.
I think we might be able to, well, there's two things. One is there's some things that I don't think are now that meaningful, but the larger issue is we're not distinguishing any longer between campus and virtual access. Is that a strategic choice?
No, I think if you look at did you get a chance to also look at the Word document with the best practices?
No, I did not. I have not. I've been reviewing the white paper in this morning.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't looked at that other document.
You're right. So if we take a look at this document, this is going to back up the previous document. I mean, it's kind of like, here's the documentation for the scorecard. How do you score it? And what Josh did, and I appreciate you doing this because this took some time, is he went through and described what it meant.
Okay. Unfortunately, mine is not opening. I'm getting an error message when I open it. I'm getting a word experienced an error opening this file.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to try and read it on your Skype page.
Okay. Well, I think it may take some time to go through this. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I really don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I think it does need some tweaking. But if that first concern you had, if maybe we put it, build it into the fully implemented, partially implemented, or not implemented description, whether it's weekend hours, that kind of thing, I think it would flush this all the way out.
Okay, I kind of see that.
But not all of them need it, which is kind of the way Josh has set this up. Like the admissions process, do you need to have an advisor available all the time? He says, no, you do need to have, however, website access. So I think he's gone into this, and he's thought about it, like which things do you need?
Okay, yeah, that is a lot of work.
Right, and he did the financial aid. You can see where he broke it down. Students must come to campus. Students are still required to come to campus. Support available on a flexible time schedule. So I'm thinking now, flexible time schedule could mean a lot of things.
Okay.
So do we need to define what flexible time schedule means?
Yeah, this is a rubric more or less.
Right, to go
Right.
with the score sheet.
What is the okay? Then there are a couple other items. The first question: the institution has pre-post enrollment services. What is the rubric on that?
Okay,
I'm not going to go
Looking
over
at-
all of them, but that one appeared to me on the surface to be not have a whole lot of who does not have pre and post enrollment. But you mean for distance services, distance students?
Right.
Yeah, let me fill in a little bit more on the background of this for the folks that haven't been involved in the FLVC side of things. My Word document rubric originated as a best practices, just a kind of a helpful reference for one of our work groups in FLVC. Then this process came along with the scorecard. So there's still going to be a few things in there if the group decides that they want to do this format, have the scorecard and have my Word document as a backup. There's a few things in the Word document that I'm probably going to have to go in and finish reconciling them to the scorecard, and those pre and post enrollment advising piece is one of them, because especially here and just in the college system, advising tends to be more, you either have a first year advisor and then you switch to your permanent advisor, or you have one advisor the whole time. So in my document, those two are not broken out and described in the narrative. So some of those types of things are going to have to be tweaked if the group decides that these two documents and this workflow is what they want.
Okay. Yeah, I follow along with advising services, but the one I'm asking about is the very first one, which has pre and post. Institution has pre and post enrollment services. Is what circumstance would that not be met?
Or in other words, is that when a necessary question or category is what you're asking?
Yeah, I left that out of my Word document because I felt that we were describing all of the pre and post enrollment services in the other categories.
Yeah, okay.
So this may be not relevant, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's adding value here.
So I wonder, so we might want to just remove that this category is what you're saying. Let me see if I can remove it now. Yeah, that way, there we go. And then we start with admissions.
Okay, then I've got a couple of other
Sure.
isolated service items. Under orientation, item C, the institution provides onboarding service support for FTIC students. I guess in order to get full implementation, they would have to have virtual onboarding support. Is that the way I read this question?
Yes, but I'm wondering if we want that to be first time only. We provide onboarding services for all students, right?
Yeah, that's a fallback, but I haven't seen the rubric. Perhaps if you don't provide onboarding virtually, then you don't get full implementation. Is that with the intent, Josh?
Yeah, that would be the intent, and that's another area that you won't see all of those services broken out in my rubric yet. I'm going to need to go in and break some more of those out. Everything in the scorecard is listed in my narrative, but the categories don't quite align yet. So I wrote mine more from a perspective of focusing on the virtual instead of focusing on both the virtual and traditional student. Mine kind of assumed that you're serving traditional students, and this is how we support the online student.
Okay. I guess also, where is this? Under orientation C. Under post-enrollment services B, it's the same sort of reasoning, because the institution always has advisors available for students, but we want to assure that they're available for virtually for distance students.
Right. So that's where the flexible, when you go back into, I think he talks about flexible in the, let me go back into best practices and trying to see where you put that one at.
Instead of flexible, would you rather see something like extended hours or hours beyond normal business hours, and define that a little bit better than saying just flexible?
Yes, but we talked about, we also like to see weekend. So it'd be extended weekday and weekend.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we were thinking would be like, if you were really on board with this, you would be providing all that. Of course, you wouldn't, that one of the questions we are having to deal with now is we're kind of in a bridge time where we're starting to bring in that 100% online student intentionally. And, we still don't have scale. So like FIU has scale, so they have all of that. It's very, very robust. They have weekends and they have evenings. So, but some smaller colleges may not because they're not at scale. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we basically don't offer any weekend services here, and some evenings, but no weekends because of that very thing.
So, and that's where Lynn was like, can we say that you have some services like her institution, they're available, but they have FAQs and that kind of thing. Is that sufficient for a weekend? Or do we really want for it to be you calling and you're talking to a person?
That's a tough one.
Yes. So you've not resolved that question.
Well, and I think some of that is why I had a column on my document to give evidence of what you're doing, because it's a little bit like responding to SACs. You can make your case for why what you're doing is sufficient to serve your students.
Right. That's true. But then, some of this is having this scorecard is the ability to leverage when you go back to your institution, right? So, wow, if we could just do this, we could improve our score, that kind of thing.
Is this something for your system in the universities, that the institution's going to be held accountable for this, or is it just a self-help tool?
That's a really good question, because it was left very broadly in the tactic. It wasn't defined. whether it was to be used as an assessment tool or as a self-help tool. So some of our concerns is that we design it for a self-help tool and it'll be used as an assessment tool.
I wonder if we can compromise, because I fully believe it will become an assessment tool, and it'll trickle down even to the colleges. I wonder if we can leave the 3 categories and have the score, but add like a comment box like Josh indicated, and just limit the number of characters in it. So you could put in like no more than 300 characters and say, responds to the prospective student inquiries, because then I could, for our institution, we might put either the partially implemented or the fully implemented, and we could say, well, we don't have humans on the weekend, we do have automated messaging, and we do follow-up phone calls through a campaign on the following within 2 business days. But that wouldn't, they wouldn't know that from the score. But the score is helpful, and again, the categories we can use to leverage for assistance from our institutions. But I almost wonder having just a additional information box with characters limited.
Right, and we can put that. I like what you said in our directions. We could say use this box to, the comment box to. To fully describe your services, or for additional description that may go over and beyond. Because I think what you're doing is good when you're thinking again on scale, and maybe we ought to put it also build into our scorecard. I wonder if we could, that scalability, because I think it's unrealistic to expect Josh's college to fully implement weekend and evenings when they're not at that scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do it either.
Yeah. Well, and we're just beginning, to get to where we can. And and for us, again, it's a scale issue. How, when do you start providing those services when 1 or 2 people are calling you, right? Is it worth paying for that person to sit there just in case the phone rings?
Right.
But at the same time, we're not going to grow our enterprise if we don't. So it's, you kind of have at what point is that tipping scale?
Yeah.
So I think we need to probably build that into this somehow.
Okay. And I had a question for the group. In my Word document, I had some mappings to some of the SAC standards, and that was at the request of the FLVC group. Does that have value for your purposes for this scorecard?
What do you think as a group?
I don't know if anybody's going to really use it, but it does add some merit to some background to it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it a little more substantial.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just too much information then, but I don't think it would hurt, and I think it ties into the reasoning, and I don't know, I think it's a good citations.
I think it's good, and it also shows that we're not, like you said, we're not coming out of left field on this, and we can put the standard into the. Remember that this document that Josh is putting together. I mean, if you go to OLC, it's I think it's like a 30-page document. Actually, this is pretty concise compared to that. So I think we could add the SACS principles that you're tying to that into this document, and we can make reference to it in our introduction to this, overall.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that this group wanted to keep those, because as I continue to tweak my Word document to line up line for line, so to speak, with your scorecard, I'll just have to go back in and rearrange some of these mappings.
Yeah. Okay, I did get your document open, Josh, and yeah, I see some of those gaps. And I may point out another one I think might be a little that might be dispensable, and that's at the bottom of orientation. There's a thing about web presence for facts, and that really doesn't. I don't see that that has bearing on campus or virtual access.
The orientation FTIC support.
No, orientation item I. There is a web presence for facts.
Back over on the Excel document. All right.
Yeah, I think that one could be dispensed.
Okay, I'm trying to find it too. Where is it? Oh,
it's line
okay.
50. Well, yeah, line 57 in the
Okay.
old document.
It might be now 56 for you. Yeah, oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've taken a slightly different approach to that web presence and FAQs. We don't have FAQs, but our whole entire website is based on potential questions.
Yeah.
It's a little different approach.
It
Yeah.
would be a challenge to write the rubric for this item here, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, it's not letting me delete it.
Oh, and
Just because it needs editing.
did you address virtual, or did you address access to internships in your document there? I'm not sure what that means in this context.
And which one is that?
That's post-enrollment services number 8, item H.
I addressed that a little bit differently. I lumped, I'm trying to see what I actually labeled that.
Maybe internship placement that it's about, or like job placement.
Yeah, that's how I approached it. And okay. Yeah,
I find it here too.
I put it, lumped it under career counseling. And I put students have access to placement resources such as job openings and internship opportunities online, career coaching staff are available, et cetera, and so on and so forth. So I actually, instead of under a post-enrollment situation, I just lumped everything that had to do with jobs and careers in one category, and that's one thing I'll have to tweak in my document to make it look more like the Excel sheet.
I think we can let's fix the scorecard.
I think
so
let's fix it. Yeah.
I
I think
access to internship placement.
I think that's too precise. And we just want, and maybe like here it says job placement services, internships, we just say career services.
Well, I actually think it's helpful to have internships listed there, especially for those of us that are doing Bachelor of Applied Science degrees, because those are
With you,
the
Josh,
internship.
the internship is very much an academic service, and
Yeah.
it's
No, I'm not
distinct
opposed to
from.
moving it. I just would like to see it still in the document.
But
Yeah.
I think we don't want to imply that the students are doing internships virtually, which
No.
is the way I read the scorecard item right now.
Yeah. Could we compromise and make it a leave the line item but rephrase it to be and access to internship resources and services?
Sure.
Because it's a very distinct effort at our college as well, or it's trying to be.
Resources and services?
Yeah, and or services, something like that. Because it's different than job placement, and it is to some extent different than career services.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a place that students really can get hung up if they don't have the help in that area. Someone that's not quite through college and maybe has never had a full-time job, they have a hard time finding their own internships and knowing where to go and what to ask.
Okay.
Yeah. Drew just provided a comment too, saying along the same lines.
Okay. I've got thank you for sharing, because I've got the one window open so you guys can see it.
Yeah, he's saying that he provides a link to internships.com, and the programs are providing internship services depending on their needs.
Okay. So I like that. That's a good tweak. Okay. Are there others?
No, those were the picky items that I identified.
I'm so glad you guys are in this committee with me. I would not know the difference. All right, so let me, I think I did, when I was reading through some of the documentation, I'm trying to remember, I left my notes at work. I thought there was a couple other things in here that we could probably, in our description, but I think Josh has enough information to edit this a little more. Do you think you have enough, Josh?
I do. I've taken some notes, and if you can send me the Excel sheet that you've edited while we were on the call here, so that I make sure that I'm starting again in the same place we left off, so to speak. And if you can send me that, then I'll work on it. When do you need your next draft by? Yesterday?
Well, we're meeting every 2 weeks, so our next meeting will be the 27th. So if I can send things out by Friday, that gives everyone, if they want to, they can read it on the weekend, or they have a couple of weekdays they can look at it before the meeting.
Okay. Well, I'll actually try. I'll try and probably work on it and possibly get you something tomorrow then, because I'm going to be gone the whole of next week for the Instructure conference.
Okay.
So I'll see what I can get done for you before I leave.
Okay.
And if not, then I may have to send you something on Monday. I know that's a little close to your next meeting, Monday the 25th.
That's okay. If you can send it to me, let's see what we can get done, because I am not perfect on this Friday stuff, I'll be honest. So sometimes it's Monday before I get things out. So.
Okay. And one tongue-in-cheek comment, do we need to add a section in the scorecard for Pokemon Go services?
I think so.
At least this week.
It's amazing that all these college kids are walking around with their little phones. It's been a riot to watch my campus.
It's everyone from 8 to 60 on walking around our quad.
I know that there's one of our employees brought their son to work yesterday, and he's going, "Is anybody doing Pokemon?" And then I said, "Yeah, I just saw the engineer group walking around." And he's like, "I'm going to go join them." I thought it's funny. So it'll be interesting to see how that new phase, what other things occur through that. That'll be fun to watch. Okay, so I think I would like to tell the group, if you don't mind, let me take a look at the calendar. I would like to tell them, hopefully we can finalize this on the 27th then. But we're going to need some directions and things like that added as well. So, let's hopefully we can have like a total package pulled together by the 27th. We can approve it hopefully, and I'll tell the implementation group that they could have it by Friday the 29th for them to review. You think we can do that? I
think we can, for my part at least. I would feel more comfortable before we send my document up a level if someone, I don't know if you or Lynn, either one, might be comfortable doing this, but have someone be the kind of second set of eyes on it, because there's a lot of information, a lot of narrative, and I'm going to be doing a lot of editing. So just looking to make sure I haven't double covered anything or left anything out.
Yes, that's
Absolutely.
I think we can all do that too. And then
I'll volunteer, and I won't wait till the morning of the meeting to open it up.
okay.
I'll volunteer too, Josh. Hey, I've got a new boss. I can have him read it.
There you go. That's a good one.
You know? I mean, he's a good guy, and he's new to the state. It'll do him some good.
It would.
New bosses need something to do.
Yeah, he's a little busy, but he'd do it. He gets it. It's really cool. Sorry, that sounded really bad.
No. All right. So I think I'm so happy. This is, I can't express. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is wonderful. And all the input is really coming together. And I think we're going to really have a meaningful scorecard for this when we're finished. What a journey this has been. All right, so let me let's go ahead and switch over to I think I have an internet link for this. I didn't put it on our list, agenda list, but it is an activity we need to do. And these are the questions that we're looking at to send to the Florida Virtual Survey. We just want to know what the minimum requirements are needed. And he's got this set up. If you approve the question, you just say yes. If you don't, say no. And if you have no, how would you edit the question? And then what technology barriers do you encounter? Again, do you approve? Do you not? And then finally, how do you address those challenges? So we can send this link out to everyone, and you just vote. And then next week we can, if it's a yes or a go, then we'll send it to FLVC. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any responses so far?
No, because I haven't sent it out to the committee yet. I wanted to make sure you knew it's coming first.
Oh, I swear I thought I saw this.
Oh, maybe you did. I don't know.
Or I'm just, it's just deja vu.
Maybe you did. We've done this several different times. You have to remember that, okay? But we're because remember we were going to send out the larger survey, and then they nixed that because there's too many surveys. So then we said, well, maybe we can add a few questions to the FLVC. So let's see if we can get these approved and over to FLVC. And this will be quick, hopefully. And if we need to do more interaction back and forth, we'll do that. Okay, the white paper. I don't know if you've had a chance to read this or begin to read it. This is please, this is a rough draft. This is just the first kind of breeze through. I think there's probably grammar errors, things we really need to fix. But we wanted some feedback from you as to whether we're on target, are we not on target. I don't know, how many were able to read it?
I skimmed. I did not do a fully depth read.
I read the introduction to get an idea.
Okay.
And then I looked for some information in it that I wasn't able to quite pin down. This is not prescriptive at all, correct? This is just an assessment.
Right, right. Because remember, here's the problem. Remember, we ran into the political issue about working with the state and increasing broadband. Joyce and I sat down and said, what is the probability that we could actually get broadband put into counties that don't have it. Even with the Board of Governors, that probability is very slim. So we decided what we would do then is do a broad kind of background on the topic. I think it's valuable for them to understand that not everyone truly has equal access to distance learning classes, and this is why. And I'm not sure, is this one? I worked a little bit on the solutions piece, which is what we're still going to need to do. And that's why we're trying to gather some of the survey information. Is like, what are the minimum technology requirements to take distance learning in Florida? And what are some of the challenges the students are facing? And then finally, what are some possible solutions that institutions could possibly implement? We have, as far as digital concerns, in the draft that you have available, you do not have this last category with the specific digital challenges. And what we're finding, and this was quite an eye-opener for me, is that those students who are of low income are likely to fail to enroll in a post-secondary institution that is compatible with their level of achievement. And the reason they think that happens is because they don't know how to navigate the college search sites. So what they'll do is they'll say, this is too confusing. I'm just going to go over here to the university that's 10 miles from my home. And then they enroll into whatever degree program is there. They also. That's
an interesting finding.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Because what they're saying is they don't have the digital competencies to search. It's very confusing, and not only that, the other piece is being able to evaluate what is marketing and what is, this is what that institution really is doing. So they get frustrated, apparently.
So the solution is to make college admissions like Amazon.com.
Very much so.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, actually, they suggested the one-stop shop, which we actually have put in place here in Florida. So with the Florida Virtual Campus, they're linked in now to all the high schools. The high schoolers know how to come to the website, and they actually have counselors on call to help you navigate that. So we actually have that solution in place already.
Okay.
Then the other thing they said was complex is even if they manage to get themselves to that institution, maybe they've made it through the admissions process, they're struggling with these complex financial aid forms, not having guidance and actually filling out the application process, because as many of you know, we're asking for transcripts and your SAT scores, all these things. So I know at our institution what we did is we actually put in a virtual onboarding process. We refined it, we streamlined it, we have checklists that if the student goes into the onboarding process and it's checked off and that they've done it, then they go to the next piece, and it's pretty much a step-by-step walkthrough process. I don't know how many people have done that, but it's really helped our admissions enrollment go up. And then they said they don't have these, the internet literacy skill to over time. That was important. It's the over time piece to look at those internet resources to make decisions. Then once they're in the university, if they don't have broadband access, then they begin to struggle with accessing the libraries. If the library website itself may be mobile friendly, but the resources in the site are not mobile ready, or they'll have very limited versions of that. So it's difficult to do a lot of the searching and functioning and pulling up resources at the library. And they also said that research is better done on the computer, especially when you're doing large projects and writing and those kind of things, that you can't do that on a mobile device or a smartphone, that you actually need the ability for a larger screen so you can you navigate through all of those issues. Now, one of the arguments has been that, not a problem. You go to your grandma's house, or you go to the internet or to the library, and you can access the internet from those places, so you can still do your distance learning classes. However, yeah, they actually believe that can be done this way. There are people out there. So, yeah, but we know that's not true. So I wanted to make sure we built into this the other piece about the libraries. So I just started pulling up some research, and I hadn't gotten around to pulling up enough where I could write a paragraph or so on it. But the little bit poking around I've done is showing that nationwide libraries may not have adequate broadband access. They may not have enough computers to serve the population. So they actually may have 30-minute limits.
Yep.
Right. And so when you go in, the idea there is that you maybe do a brief job search, or maybe you submit a job application, or you're doing a little internet search, and you're in there and done. Well, when you're in an online course, we expect you to spend 3 to 5 hours with that. Franz was gave me some really good insights too, and he said some of the libraries are not in safe places, so it may not be safe for you to walk to that library. Another part another barrier could be that you don't have reliable transportation to get to that library. So even if you could get to the library and you could get that 30 minutes, think of how often you'd have to travel back and forth to the library, particularly if you were taking 3 to 4 classes. So I think that argument needs to be built in here, especially when we're looking at online-only students. So if you're on campus, you can still maybe go to one of our computer labs. You can certainly sit down to a computer lab. You can spend 3 or 4 hours. But if you're not on campus, then you definitely need to have access to your own computer and your own high-speed internet access, broadband, whatever it is. You need to have those two things actually as a minimum to be successful in an online class. And I think that is the message that we need to be very articulate about as we come out of this particular piece. Now, as I was reading through those articles, there were some solutions I did find. One was the common application process. I think Florida Shines and Florida Completes actually is a great example of the state supporting us in that, providing that one-stop shop. And then I really think we need to reach out to the library group in Florida virtual campus. I'm going to see if I can arrange to meet with them, because this second piece, I don't know where they're at statewide. I'm making sure everything in the library is mobile first. And then the third solution I'm finding right now is setting up laptop and tablet rentals. So you can rent the laptop for a semester, or even for a couple of weeks. Has been some of the literature has talked about doing those types of things, kind of like renting a textbook. But the problem is it does have startup cost and maintenance cost. So you need to have the ability to staff a rental place, and you also need funds to have the first tablets and computers that you're going to be renting out. Then of course you don't. They said that you don't really get the money back from the rentals to really go to keep up with the constant upgrade. So, but that's one solution.
That's to address the hardware side, but there's still no good solution for the availability of broadband.
Right. So we looked into the, I'm trying to remember what it is now. Somebody help me with the Sprint, where you can, you get so many access points. But the problem with the Sprint program is you're limited to 15 megabytes of data, and so that's not adequate for a distance learning course. And it's 15 per month, and it'll slow down once you approach, I think, 12 or 13. So it becomes really, really slow for you. So that was the best we could get. I know, and I tried to ask if they would be willing to go to Comcast or to AT&T to see if they could work with one of these big companies to provide like they do for the elementary schools. But I got pushed back on that. Yeah. So unless somebody can come up with another solution. Now, Franz has been trying, and we haven't been able to get through the economic development group.
Well, can we just, in a very gentle way, call that out and say, ONGA recommend proactive discussions between the following groups to figure out how to leverage state assets to approach a broadband discussion? I mean, just some way to say, can you get these groups together to talk about it?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Because we know that we can't do it.
We can't do it, no.
But if someone sees it on paper and a legislator sees it and says, well, why don't they just talk to each other and make it happen? That comes from a different place.
Yes.
So, I mean, if we just recommend that discussions can happen at higher levels, then maybe that's enough of a hint, maybe.
Yeah. Now, we spell out what the problem is here in Florida in one of the paragraphs. Yeah. And the issues. Apparently, one of the things that has happened, there was some grant money that came out through the federal government, which was to try to help with these rural areas. And they offered it to AT&T and Comcast first. But then if they didn't pick it up, then the community could actually build in broadband access points. But the problem with that is maintenance. So you could have built it, but you may not be able to maintain it. And so there were some issues around that. And finding groups, like the community could come together and pay for that. There was different approaches to use that money, but I think it's interesting that around Tallahassee is where your biggest areas of lack of broadband access. And we're the 9th best in the states. Of all the states.
Well, from the corporate point of view, the return on investment just isn't there to run the hardware out to places like Swanee, Florida, that there's 30 miles of highway that no one lives on, and then there's 150, 200 people that live at the end of the road. It's, from the corporate perspective, it's just not there.
Right. You're right. And the lack of access is really just devastating. I'm sorry, but I can't mute my. Hopefully this will stop real soon. It's one of those politicians want to call me. Discussion with different groups to increase broadband access across Florida. Yeah, we'll refine it, but I just wanted to make sure there was an annotation here.
That's perfect.
Okay. So anyway, I thought it was really interesting. Some of these laptop rental, they were published in some, they were groups that had published about this. We can certainly try to contact them and see how those programs work for them. But who knows if they're still active or not? So all we can do is investigate.
If you're interested in just anecdotal evidence there, talk to Rob Somm at Daytona, because they did a laptop rental program as part of an OER initiative.
How do you spell his name?
SAUM, I think. Does that sound right, Lynn?
It is right.
SAUM. Okay.
Yeah, he's at Daytona Beach, and so it wasn't to address really broadband or access to online courses, but they were doing it as part of an open textbook thing. But they've had all the different experiences, from I dropped it in the Atlantic to my dog ate it to all this other stuff.
Right. And that was, but one of the things that I'm wondering, and that was one of the recommendations, is that you make it somewhat like a textbook buy. Your computer could be considered a textbook. And that allows it to come up through financial aid, I believe. But my question, and this is way over my head, I'm wondering if we did that, if we could modify the textbook legislation to include hardware as a thing as an item that could be purchased with your textbook money. If that would be helpful. I need someone from textbook background or more student services orientated than I am to know if that would work. Or financial aid.
Well, from a student perspective, I can tell you they would absolutely do it. The question is, should they?
Mm-hmm.
Because that may push them, I don't know.
Well, and that kind of came back to some of the discussions I've had with Franz back and forth, and maybe we should, I'm thinking we should maybe add a paragraph about Maslow's theory of needs, and how you're going to spend your money for food and shelter first. So when you're looking at the hierarchy of needs, as a college student, I need to make sure I have a place to sleep, and I need to make sure I can feed myself. That's going to come long before we buy a computer.
Yeah. Well, if you want, I can send an email to my director of financial aid and a couple other folks and just say, hey, this just was a conversation. Just give me your quick thoughts on it.
That would be awesome.
Okay. I'm going to have to step out to head to another meeting. I'm sorry.
I'm so glad you could make it, though, Lynn. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
You too. All right. So, again, if you find articles, you're just poking around, and you find some articles, feel free to send them to me on any of these topics so we can really kind of finish fleshing this out and finishing the writing of that. I'm going to stop presenting here. Just anything you can find on any of those topics, we can really build a nice library. Okay. Any other things that we should bring up before we go? Any other thoughts? Have you been thinking, wow, I wish this group could do X, Y, and Z?
I left you an IM about page 1, Vicki.
Okay.
Just a confusing sentence.
Okay. Yeah, we can work through all that. Thanks. All right. Got it. Okay. Thank you so much for taking some time out from your summer break. From your summer activities and joining us here. Deeply appreciate your input. All right. Wow, that did not copy and paste. I'm going to have to find another way of doing it.
Okay, and I will send you at minimum tomorrow before I leave an update on where I am and how much I've gotten done on the scorecard revisions and get you the next draft as soon as possible.
Oh, thank you, Josh. All right.
Okay, I'll look for the copy when it circulates.
Okay. Well, you have a great week, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, thanks.
All right. Have a great
Thank you all.
All right, bye.